Day 142. We are Friday, May 22nd, the gift hidden in the loss. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. Sometimes what feels like a loss is merely the necessary clearing of space for something profoundly better. I experienced this recently during my evening guitar practice. I went to reach for my plectrum, the makeshift one I used since I hadn't procured a proper pick. Wow. That's like an alliteration right there. I think that's the word. And it was nowhere to be found. I searched everywhere, growing increasingly frustrated by the missing tool needed to strike the strings properly. Because I couldn't find my usual pick, I was forced to seek an alternative. I checked drawers, rummaged through various spots, and tried several options, initially finding nothing suitable. Then I discovered something entirely new. To my surprise, this accidental substitute was exceptional. It was in fact better than the pick I had been using previously. When I finally played with this new find, the realization struck me. This was superior. Here's the remarkable part of the story. Immediately after settling in with this better alternative, I finally found the old lost pick. Yet, holding it in my hand, I felt absolutely no interest in returning to it. The one I had been pushed to discover was vastly superior to the old one I had deemed good enough. Why share this mundane incident? Because if I hadn't lost the old pick, I would never have been motivated to search for the new one. There was something demonstrably better available, but my comfort with the status quo, the old acceptable tool, kept me complacent. Losing the old one created a necessity. It removed my choice and compelled me to look outward. This necessity led directly to a replacement that was exponentially better, rendering the original obsolete, even upon rediscovery. This pattern mirrors our lives frequently. We often settle into situations, a job, business venture, relationship, believing it represents the peak, the best possible scenario. When that thing inevitably leaves or ends, the immediate reaction is complaint, despair, and often deep emotional turmoil. I have heard tragic accounts of individuals who, upon losing a relationship, felt their entire existence was over, leading to devastating choices. No matter how good you perceive that attachment to be, when it is severed, you feel like it is all finished. However, you must consider this possibility. Perhaps the loss was divinely orchestrated. The reason God allowed that job, that business, or that relationship to depart might be precisely because he intended to redirect you towards something superior that you cannot access while holding on to the current certainty. If you remain comfortable, you never feel the urgency to seek what lies beyond. God does not arbitrarily remove things from your life to cause pain. Before you descend into despair or self-harm, ask yourself, what if this loss is God pushing me towards a greater provision? Many testify later that they are profoundly grateful a certain relationship ended because had it not, they would have never met the person they are with now, someone far exceeding their previous expectations. When things derail from the planned course, we must train ourselves not to become overly attached. We must strive, do all we can to mend or hold on, but once all effort is exhausted and nothing remains but surrender, we must let go. To cling desperately often means fighting against this very redirection God has planned. So often, the things we fought so hard to retain were merely scraps when God had a banquet prepared for us. As you stepped into today, let this resolve guide you. Learn to let go and let God. That thing you're fighting for so fiercely, it might simply be God speaking, my child, release it. I have something better waiting for you. When you finally surrender and embrace that better path, you will realize God's presence and provisions were there with you all along. Step out today, God, knowing God's for you, with you, he sees you, and loves you immensely. You're God's backing. Wow, this one definitely hits home for me because I was living in Nova Scotia, which before that I was in Calgary. I'm from Calgary, and I felt like I just wasn't happy with where life was bringing me. And I moved to Nova Scotia, and I didn't really have a big plan. I had a job which turned out to very quickly become a bad job. And then I pivoted and pivoted again. I got into the career that I'm in now. And I met my wife and all these things. It was awesome. And then we started planning for more for our lives, and we realized, okay, we can't stay here. And we pursued going to BC for a year. We just came back in October and got married. And now we're in PEI, and I realized that if we hadn't done that whole debacle of going to BC and coming back, we would have never ever thought, hey, let's move to the island. Because to be honest, because it's not that far from Halifax, it wouldn't have been interesting. And our life has been really good here. She's making much more money than she was in Halifax. A lot of things have changed with the type of job she's doing. And when I moved, I was working for a company that didn't allow to work fully remote. And I was living kind of in a remote area in BC. So at first I was forced to go and stay at my parents' place in Calgary, which was 4.5 hours away at the time. And I stayed for 3 weeks, and then I'd go back home for like 5 and then come back. So I did that like 2 or 3 times. Then the vice president of the company I work for now called me. He said, hey, I like your resume. Can you apply? And we'll get through the interview process. He called me. They literally picked me. And now I work fully remote. I can work anywhere in Canada. I make a bunch of money. This year I make more money than I used to at the old company, and I'm gonna make even more money because there's a lot of good opportunities. And I had been praying to God. I'm like, God, I need some financial breakthrough. And I'm seeing now the fruits of those prayers. And I've been praying that God helps me with other things as well. And just as it said, sometimes he'll put you in an uncomfortable position because now you're forced to pivot. Sometimes I feel bad that God has to do that for us, because it's like, why are we not just obedient enough or open enough to go towards what he wants us to do? But, that's human nature. So that being said, though, I've been trying to proactively strip away the things that I know that I shouldn't have within me, so I can be prepared for the other blessings that he's preparing to give me. And yeah, it's been incredibly difficult, but it's been very great. And I know that he's renewing a steadfast spirit within me. He's making me a better person. He's making me a renewed person, renewed within Christ. And he's preparing me for all the responsibilities that come with the things that I ask for. And I know, based on all these things and how my life has gone, I know I'm in the right place. But sometimes it's even hard to stay here and be like, okay, Lord, I know this is where you want me to be. I know you want me to pivot soon. I know you want me to let go of this, but sometimes it's tough. And reading this, it just shows that you're not the only one that's dealing with these problems. So if you haven't picked up this book, My Daily Faith Pill, it'll let you kind of gain insight on other people's struggles as well. And it'll pair the scriptures of the Bible well with real life scenarios, and it'll explain it very well. That's why I really like this book. But this is a supplement to the Holy Bible. Remember to pray, remember to read the scriptures, and remember to thank God.